Madam Speaker, it is my great honour to present to the Parliament the budget for the 2016-2017 fiscal year. This is the first time the budget has been announced at night, and it is being carried live to people's homes over our free-to-air TV stations, FBC and Fiji TV. And Madam Speaker, for the first time the coverage includes a sign language interpreter for the hearing impaired, which can be viewed on FBC. Madam Speaker, as a government we are acutely aware that many of the people are still reeling from the effects of tropical Cyclone Winston. As every Fijian knows, we have directed most of our resources over the past 4 months to the cyclone relief effort and the task of rebuilding our nation. Whether it is through the Help for Homes initiative or the distribution of food rations, your government is working hard to meet the immense challenge we are presented with on 20th February this year. And that effort, Madam Speaker, continues across a broad front in the announcements I will make tonight as we redouble our efforts in this budget to get Fijians and our beloved Fiji back on the feet. It is also our intention, Madam Speaker, not just to present a budget, but to present a new step in the path forward to a long-term sustainability, economic growth, and effective responsive government. No annual budget stands alone, Madam Speaker. Each budget should be seen as a step on a journey into the future as we meet basic needs, plan for growth and change, confront new challenges, and embrace and provide new opportunities. And we are determined, Madam Speaker, that this is a journey that all of us will make together with no Fijian left behind. Most of all, Madam Speaker, tonight we would like to talk about the ways the government will empower people, particularly the most vulnerable and most forgotten. Madam Speaker, we are talking about our fellow Fijians who have been left back or held back by poverty, have been marginalized and kept in the shadows by a disability, or beaten and preyed upon because they are women or children. We will outline the boldest effort any government in the region has ever made to bring disabled citizens fully into the mainstream. This year, as you know, we again held public consultations on the budget directly with Fijians all over Fiji. We wanted to hear what they had to say. We also went a step further and for the first time held direct consultations with high school students and persons living with disabilities. There are thousands of ideas, creative solutions, and unique perspectives on problems in our country, and government needs objective input from the ground on what problem it needs to tackle, whether it's a matter of bus companies taking money from children with vouchers when we know that they shouldn't be, or taxi drivers refusing to pick up disabled people. We have had good, frank and open discussions. It was gratifying to exchange views with people who care deeply about our country, who could give insight into how others and their government affects their lives, and who, at the end of the day, were more interested in what was best for Fiji and their fellow Fijians. Madam Speaker, it is particularly gratifying to engage with our 12th and 13th year students who are on the verge of entering university or the workforce. They are our future leaders, and every decision we make will affect them profoundly. So government wants to hear them, and we want to take their views very seriously. And this budget contains a number of provisions that are designed to help prepare them for the day when they will become job seekers and also job creators. Certainly we have had to talk about priorities in these meetings, because no government, Madam Speaker, can accomplish everything it hopes to accomplish all at once. Funds for all governments are limited, and neither do we have the manpower or woman power to accomplish everything that needs to be accomplished in Fiji all at once. We have to face economic realities in our national budget and perform the same balancing act that people perform with their family budgets. For example, Madam Speaker, in one of the consultations, a student told me that the road to her school and village needed to be paved with tar seal, and they also needed electricity. I told her we might not be able to do both all at the same time, so I asked her what would she prefer to have first, and without hesitation, Madam Speaker, she said electricity. In making these decisions, Madam Speaker, we must be guided by equity and fairness, but also be enabled by the need to make sure that urban, rural and maritime communities are all served, and by a commitment to put government's resources to work for as many people as possible, with no group unfairly disadvantaged or advantaged. And of course, we are also guided by the need to ensure that everyone in Fiji lives with dignity. As the honourable members of Parliament know, this budget represents a departure from tradition in Fiji because we have changed our fiscal year to run from 1 August to 31 July, or financial year. As we have stated, Madam Speaker, we did this for 3 reasons. To ensure that we would be able to spend the taxes we collect at the end of the calendar year within the financial year. Secondly, to avoid the disruptions and inefficiencies that inevitably occur during the December-January season. And to ensure that our budget is not hijacked or rendered moot by the need to respond to the tropical cyclones that inevitably hit us from the cyclone season from November to April. The new financial year, Madam Speaker, will give us better predictability, greater budget security, and a much stronger ability to manage public funds. Still, this budget will look remarkably like the budgets of last year and the year before it, were it not for the need to respond to Winston. It is important, Madam Speaker, for governments to be serious, consistent, and predictable, and not to lurch about changing priorities drastically from year to year. Of course, the government must have a vision, which we do, and it must stick to it, which we have and intend to. Our businesses, our people, and our international development partners need to know what to expect of us over several years, and we need to give them a stable platform for planning, growth, and confidence. That, Madam Speaker, is what we are doing. And we intend to do better, Madam Speaker. So from next year, ministries will prepare 3-year and 5-year budget submissions that will allow us to make better plans, use government finances more efficiently, and attract more international development assistance. These plans will be flexible, of course. A government cannot have rigid multi-year budgeting, but it must have a clear sense of where it is going and how it intends to get there. A single-year approach to budgeting cannot address the needs of our people, nor ultimately can it be taken seriously. Madam Speaker, the approach must not be one device as we have seen in the past, and is still true for some quarters in our society. As I present this budget, Madam Speaker, it is not my intention to review the detailed programs of all ministries, or go line by line through departments and state enterprises. Instead, Madam Speaker, this will be a much shorter presentation than in the recent past, and I only highlight some of the key priority areas. And we will make summaries for individual ministries available to the members of the public from tonight, on the government Facebook page, on the website, and the entire budget estimates, Madam Speaker, will be available online as it was last year, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we have also provided 1-page summaries or 2-page summaries for each of the ministries based on the 4 sectors, which will be available to members of the public as they step outside of this Parliament, and also, of course, available online. Madam Speaker, rest assured, government's commitment to infrastructure development, national security, education, health, agriculture, and the other essential government activities continues unabated. Of course, the honourable members of Parliament will go through the detailed figures in the estimates and debate them when we meet next after tonight. Madam Speaker, we have achieved steady economic growth over the years thanks to consistent, controlled and expansionary policies with a vision that have supported strong activity in all sectors. We have achieved this despite natural disasters that have affected the performance of the agricultural sector, damaged infrastructure and disrupted the service sector. Despite these challenges, Madam Speaker, government had reprioritized its development programs, and we have managed to sustain a remarkable level of growth for the last 7 years. The Macroeconomic Committee estimates our economic growth in this calendar year will be 2.4%. IMF predicts it will be 2.5%, and ADB predicts it will be 2.7%. But we believe that our economic growth will be somewhere closer to 3%. Cyclone Winston will have a ripple effect through the economy and has negatively affected agricultural exports and even dampened tourism arrivals for a period of time. But it has not been enough to prevent the economy from growing at a respectable rate, Madam Speaker. Fortunately, we have a sound recovery program in place, and so we expect our growth to be broad-based and sustained. We are bucking the trend in the world economy, which has been volatile and somewhat sluggish. We Fijians are resilient and optimistic people, and will take more than even the most powerful tropical storm ever in the southern hemisphere and the second strongest ever in the world to deprive us of the strong and healthy future we have planned for ourselves. The Fijian economy is expected to grow by 3.6% in the calendar year ending December 2017 and 3.2% for 2018. This will mean we will enjoy 9 consecutive years of economic growth, the longest period of growth, Madam Speaker, in Fiji's history. Because the fiscal year no longer coincides with the calendar year, Madam Speaker, it is important to note that the Fijian economy is estimated to grow by 3.1% under the new 2016-2017 fiscal year and 2.8% for fiscal year 2017-2018. Foreign reserves, Madam Speaker, are currently strong and expected to remain stable, enough to fund in excess of 5 months of import cover. And despite the effects of Winston on some prices, we expect inflation to remain at a manageable 2 to 3%. The Fiji National Provident Fund has played a major but largely unheralded role in Fiji's economic performance, and its strength was a critical factor in our response to Winston. The Fiji National Provident Fund allowed members to withdraw $1,000 in post-cyclone assistance and up to $5,000 for quick repairs assistance. The FNPF has paid out $276 million to 180,000 members under this cyclone assistance. Despite this massive payout, Madam Speaker, the FNPF will credit its members a higher interest rate of 6.25% compared to 2015. This, Madam Speaker, this strong financial position of FNPF, Madam Speaker, has only been achieved because of the reforms implemented under the Bainimarama government a few years ago. The reforms adopted by the fund have produced an extremely sound investment mechanism for Fijians and an important source of investment for the nation. This was recently, Madam Speaker, again reconfirmed by third-party actuarial assessments. Madam Speaker, as we chart and execute our recovery, the international community has come together to assist us, in part, of course, for humanitarian reasons. But beyond immediate humanitarian concerns, Madam Speaker, they also want to help us stay on the trajectory we have established. Our economic policies have shown results and have won the praise of international financial institutions, development partners, private investors, and economists worldwide. So helping Fiji is not just a humanitarian aid, Madam Speaker, it is also a bet on this country's future, and with a very favorable odds too, we might have, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, government has prepared a budget for 2016-2017 with expenditures of $3.64 billion, a projected revenue of $3.18 billion, a deficit of $468 million, Madam Speaker, or 4.7% of GDP. The need to pay for Winston recovery is largely responsible for a deficit that is higher than we had anticipated. But we also know, and so do our development partners and multilateral development banks, that we have no choice. And it is a trend that all countries that have had a climatic event such as we did must have an expansionary policies in order to recover the economic growth it has lost. We must do, Madam Speaker, whatever it takes to rebuild our infrastructure, our homes and our economy, and get Fiji back to normal as quickly as possible. In fact, had it not been for Winston, Madam Speaker, our projected deficit would be around 2.7%. Government has been very prudent in its management of the economy, and this is part of that prudent management, knowing when it is necessary to assume debt because the alternative is intolerable. This deficit, Madam Speaker, is truly an investment in Fiji's future. And Madam Speaker, the ministry that manages the robust economy, the Ministry of Finance, will change its name to the Ministry of Economy come 1 August to reflect a more comprehensive approach to our economic well-being, and which sits with our reform to create a modern civil service. Madam Speaker, I will now talk about the tropical cyclone Winston rehabilitation and reconstruction. Madam Speaker, we all know the devastation we suffered from Cyclone Winston. 44 lives were lost, Madam Speaker, and our thoughts are with the families who lost their loved ones. Damage, Madam Speaker, was caused in all 4 divisions, and 250 schools and more than 30,000 homes were severely damaged or destroyed. The post-disaster needs assessment compiled by the World Bank, it was a joint effort by the World Bank, the European Union, United Nations, and the Australian Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, put the total damage bill at 2.8 billion Fijian dollars. Tropical cyclone Winston rehabilitation and reconstruction, Madam Speaker, is our highest priority for the coming year, and we have pulled the government together with private sector groups like the Fiji Institution of Engineers to be one team, dividing up the responsibilities to make sure we can rebuild and recover as quickly as possible. We wish to acknowledge and thank the support of all those engineers of the institution who work tirelessly to carry out the professional assessment free of charge, Madam Speaker. One of the lessons, Madam Speaker, we've learned is that it is not enough to simply rebuild. We have to rebuild in a way that will withstand high winds and torrential rains. We should look at this rebuild as an opportunity as well as a challenge. An opportunity to bury electrical lines underground so they cannot be blown over, to learn how to live in areas that can be prone to flooding, and to use advances in structural engineering to build buildings that are designed specifically to withstand high winds. Government's immediate responsibility was to tend to the needs of the Fijians who were affected by distributing food rations, temporary shelters, medical supplies, and other relief materials throughout the country. But we had to shift quickly to recovery, to getting people out of the temporary shelter and back to their homes and villages, back to their livelihoods and the lives they had built. We remember always that while Winston recovery is a national project, it is also a deeply personal matter to every Fijian who has been displaced, whose life is shattered, who lost a loved one, or whose future has changed forever. It may take a few years in some parts of the country to bring economic activity and growth fully back to the way they were before Winston. And government may, according to the disaster recovery framework, have to spend as much as $730 million directly to fully restore the Fijian economy. That, Madam Speaker, is in addition to expenditures by the private sector, individuals and aid partners. In this respect, Madam Speaker, we will repair damaged schools, relocate families in hazard-prone areas and develop sustainable disaster resilience settlements. While we have no legal obligation to rebuild private homes, the single largest expenditure that has been to help to rebuild homes was done by the government. So many Fijians were in such great need that government simply had to act. We began quickly with the Help for Homes initiative, which was launched by the Honourable Prime Minister and which is a critical tool for reconstruction. Government has spent $88 million to assist people in the areas most directly in Winston's path, including in Koro, Taviuni, Southern Vanuatu, Ra, Tavua, Ba, Lotoka, Tailevu, Ovalau and Vanuatu. The initiative rests on government's firm belief in the wisdom and energy of the Fijian people. We have allocated, Madam Speaker, another $20 million to continue the Help for Homes initiative in the 2016-2017 fiscal year. We will repair and strengthen critical infrastructure such as roads, jetties and bridges so that we can continue to deliver basic services such as education, health, water supply, sanitation and electricity. We are getting significant support from both aid partners and Fijian corporations and other institutions through initiatives like Adopt a School program. But much of the burden will fall on government, Madam Speaker. So far, 38 Fijian schools have been adopted. Only yesterday we were informed that the Indian government would like to adopt 30 more schools. Finally, Madam Speaker, we will work to build resilience. That is to strengthen the ability of both our local communities and our natural environment to withstand future disasters, including training for all age groups on how to build back better. The figures tell the story. In total, $207.9 million is provided for rehabilitation works. And indeed, Madam Speaker, we have an allocation in the Ministry of Provincial Development where we are allocating funds and getting trained carpenters to go out to villages and other rural areas to train people as to how to build back better. And as mentioned, Madam Speaker, we need to partner with our development partners to engage in more adapted infrastructure rebuilds, such as underground cabling of electrical lines. Under the recovery plan for schools, Madam Speaker, the government is very keen to repair school buildings as quickly as possible so that children can return to classes and regain the sense of normalcy, security and predictability that are so important to children's lives. A total of $142.6 million is provided to rebuild and repair all education facilities. Government has accepted requests for lead consultancy proposals from consulting firms to begin the design phase of construction works, and construction contracts for school and health facilities that will be progressively awarded will commence in the next few weeks. In addition to the 38 schools adopted through the Adopt a School program, government has allocated $132 million for the reconstruction of the neediest schools, the 250 schools that were severely damaged or completely destroyed. We have also allocated $5.2 million to rebuild 43 damaged primary school boarding facilities and upgrade or rebuild 95 damaged early childhood centers. I should say early childhood education centers. Regarding the Winston recovery pertaining to sugar, agriculture, fisheries and forestry, Madam Speaker. Sugar, agriculture, fisheries and forestry, Madam Speaker, are pillars of Fiji's economic growth and major sectors of employment for the Fijian people. An allocation of $17.1 million is provided to support rehabilitation efforts for non-sugar sectors as part of the Ministry of Agriculture's allocation of $74 million. Those funds will be used to repair and rebuild damaged agricultural offices and quarters, $1.5 million, to replant some 500,000 coconut trees, $250,000, to rebuild seawall and irrigation structures and drainage systems, $179,000, and to develop Dalo, $500,000, and Yangona crops, $651,500, and rehabilitate crops in severely affected areas in the northern, eastern, and central divisions. Government, Madam Speaker, will also support replanting of pine and degraded forests of $500,000, restoration of affected seaweed and aquaculture farms, $200,000, and the reconstruction of fishery and forestry offices and buildings, $1.6 million. Madam Speaker, in addition, we have received direct budgetary support of $23 million from the European Union for rehabilitation of the entire agricultural sector, including sugarcane cultivation and processing. Regarding infrastructure and public utilities, Madam Speaker, under the Winston Recovery Program, of the total $47.3 million in rehabilitation costs, Madam Speaker, $31.8 million is to be used for the reconstruction of roads, bridges and jetties, and also Irish crossings, many of which were damaged. $8.6 million for water and sewage, and $5.9 million for rural electrification projects, solar home systems, and diesel schemes. Insurance reform, Madam Speaker, under the recovery program. Madam Speaker, Cyclone Winston has also brought us face to face with the need to reform our insurance industry and the assumptions that underlie our insurance regime in Fiji. The uninsured losses arising from Winston significantly outweighed insured losses, which shows how vulnerable we are to these events. We need to do a better job of overseeing the insurance sector so that we can give more protection to the Fijian people and the Fijian economy. Frankly, Madam Speaker, the insurance industry has not been regulated well, and the industry itself needs to be more creative and innovative on its own volition and Fiji-focused. Insurance companies simply need to do more. The Reserve Bank had already undertaken with the insurance industry a complete review of the Insurance Act in 2013 and had already identified a number of areas in the need to reform. But now, Madam Speaker, we need to move more quickly, and we will soon hold public consultations on the provision of insurance services in Fiji. We must develop an insurance framework designed to reach to the underserved in our country, in our society, who desperately need protection that they can afford, and in future they have some form of protection. Climate change, Madam Speaker. We are faced with the reality of climate change and sea level rises, and we must take intelligent steps to adapt to the situation we are facing. We have no choice. In fact, it would be foolhardy not to act forcefully and immediately. First, we will continue to be a leading voice in the effort to make the entire world face up to the dire need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. In recognition of Fiji's desire and a unique ability to be a central point for the other Pacific SIDS, to build in-country capacity to access climate finance and formulate bankable projects, I am glad to announce, Madam Speaker, that Fiji's proposal has been accepted by UNESCO for Fiji to be the host country for this facility. And in this respect, government has allocated seed funding of $215,000 in the 2016-2017 fiscal year. At the local level, Madam Speaker, we are helping vulnerable communities adapt to natural disasters and climate change by finding the best solutions for each community. And many development partners are working with us already. This could mean building more resilient infrastructure, such as seawalls, providing equipment, or if necessary, relocating entire communities to safer areas nearby. We've already relocated 2 villages, and several more are scheduled to be moved in 2017. Madam Speaker, we're also restoring and protecting the forests that absorb carbon dioxide and help absorb rainwater through the RED program. And we are working with traditional owners to develop sustainable fishing practices. We are investing in weather forecasting with new equipment and new offices in areas strategically placed around the country in order to provide better forecasting and earlier warning systems for the residents. The World Bank provides a grant of $2.2 million for this program, and government has contributed $245,000. Fortunately, Madam Speaker, international aid partners have come forward with funding projects to help us deal with the effects of climate change, and we will continue to pursue international support for the very important and strategic work that we are doing. Roads, utilities and other infrastructure. Madam Speaker, 3 years ago we embarked on an ambitious program to put an end once and for all to the disgraceful state of the nation's roads. We remain committed to a modern and robust road system that serves cities and rural areas alike. And we have allocated $527 million to the Fiji Roads Authority for 2016-2017. We maintain a balance as much as we can between the rural roads that are less traveled but vital to so many communities as it connects them to markets, schools, services, health facilities, and the urban roads, on the other hand, Madam Speaker, that serve many people in a high-density area and carry the bulk of commerce and trade. Rural roads funding, Madam Speaker, will increase this year to an unprecedented $95 million. Rural projects include the Eastern Island Roads upgrade at $6 million, and I'm highlighting only the key ones here. Rotuma Farm Roads at $3.9 million, Kilaka Road Stage 3 and Crossing at $3.4 million, Cuba Kamba Peninsula Road at $3.3 million, and Matokana Village Road Stage 2 at $2.8 million. $4.5 million, Madam Speaker, is allocated for urgent repair of high priority bridges. Many of our bridges, Madam Speaker, are weak because of poor construction some time back, in some cases due to corruption and overloading. The Walu Bay Bridge, Tamavua Bridge, Lamy Bridge, Tavua Levu Bridge, Matanaivoso Bridge on the King's Road, Vishindrua Bridge in Vanuatu, Lambasa Bridge, Nakasava Bridge on the Trianinsula Road in Vanuatu, and Nayalayala Bridge in Taveuni. All of this fall into this sad category. $38.2 million, Madam Speaker, is allocated to upgrade and maintain bridges in both rural and urban areas, including the Overlau Bridge Program at $3.17 million, and Taveuni bridges at $9.5 million. $7.4 million is allocated to renew and maintain jetties maintenance and renewals, including Savusavu Jetty, Vunisea Jetty, and Natovi Jetty Stage 2. Government Shipping Services allocated $22.8 million to upgrade government shipping vessels, wharves and buildings, purchase a new multi-purpose vessel, and install beacon piles at Nambuwalu Jetty and Ellington Wharf. The Street Light Improvement Program, which is so critical to public safety, will be funded at $10.7 million for urban areas and along the Queens and Kings Road and rural areas of Vanuatu. $500,000, Madam Speaker, is dedicated to the urgent repair of Ellington Wharf, a major point of embarkation or disembarkation for people travelling north and from north. Also, in the furtherance of connecting our many islands, we have allocated $150,000 to work together with AFL for the expansion of the runway at Matai Airport in Taveuni to accommodate the ATR 42 and 72 to improve connectivity to Taveuni, Madam Speaker, and we hope this work will be completed within 18 months. And we have allocated, Madam Speaker, $200,000 to begin preliminary works for the development of a new airport in Vanuatu in Sainganga. Madam Speaker, we are improving the capacity of the Water Authority of Fiji to provide water to communities whose water supply is vulnerable to disruption during heavy rains and eventually restore their water systems, and to deliver water to communities during emergencies. We simply have to expect to do this work every year, and it is fully anticipated in WEF's 2016-2017 allocation of $308.6 million, of which operating grant is $79.2 million and capital works, Madam Speaker, is $229.4 million. Madam Speaker, this also includes $7.5 million for the Rural Water Program, which will provide water to 14 villages, schools and settlements in the Eastern, Western and Central Divisions, and $1 million in reserve for projects that are being developed. Madam Speaker, communities no longer contribute to government's rural electrification and rural water programs. As you're aware, Madam Speaker, government had made a policy decision, unlike previous governments, that the communities do not need to make a contribution. Government now bears the full cost and will allocate $14.9 million for rural electrification. Community contributions that were previously collected for water and electricity from last year have been refunded or will be before the end of July 2016.